Hold your horses, partner. Am I saying that Josh Heupel, aka Bobby Hill, is the second coming of Nick Saban? Heck to the no. With how much I've taken up for the Tennessee Volunteers this offseason and how much I've praised them, you would think that I'm secretly a Tennessee fan, but trust me, I'm not. I'm about as far as it gets from a Tennessee fan because most of you know what team I go for. And just like always, I had to remind you guys, first, before I'm an Alabama fan, I'm a college football fan. Unlike most of your college football fans out here, I call things how I see it. And I'm sure there's some people that would say that Matt's biased sometimes towards Alabama, or maybe I'm biased towards the SEC a lot. And to each their own, I'm not really here to speculate on that because you're entitled to your own opinion. You're going to believe what you want to. But I will tell you is this right here. I call things how I see it. I don't let my team influence any of my decisions or opinions. For example, if I were to sit up here and say Alabama's been the best football program over the past 15 years, would you say that's me having Alabama bias, or is that a fact? To me, it's just a coincidence that Alabama is the best football team in the past 15 years, and I also happen to be a Bama fan, you see what I'm saying? But getting on track here and on topic with this video, I do want to make it short and sweet, but if it turns out to be a long video, it is what it is. You know how your boy Matt can be with his rants. And matter of fact, now thinking about it, when was the last time we even talked about Tennessee football? It had to be, what was it, dang near 2 months ago? I haven't really talked about them a lot. I talked about them earlier in the offseason, but after that, not too much. I'm pulling it up right here. The last Tennessee video we made and the last time we talked about Tennessee was right at about, 2 months ago. So yeah, it's been a minute. And I know what all you're sitting there saying, well, Matt, why are you talking about them today? What's going on? Well, my friend, that's a great question. I have an even better answer. I am beyond sick and tired of the disrespect toward the Tennessee Volunteers and that entire program. Because to me, this is how it goes. Yeah, I'm going to criticize you as much as anybody else, but at the same time, I'm going to give credit when it's due. My problem with the national media is they laughed at, they joked on, they spat on Tennessee for the past 15 years. And that's all fine and dandy, but they haven't reciprocated that same energy. Because now Tennessee is a good/great football program, and nobody wants to talk about them. And it's not just that nobody wants to talk about them. I think, and I solely believe, they're being disrespected. Before we go any farther, I say we take a look at this first things first. The new AP poll came out. You know how I feel about it. If you didn't see this video, I'll pop it right here. Feel free to check it out. And I went on a rant in that video too. Well, to give y'all some context, in my preseason top 25, or my heading into 2020, or whatever you want to call it, I have Tennessee at number 5. I got Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2, Bama at 3, the little bro Ohio State at 4, Tennessee 5, and LSU 6. So yes, I do have Tennessee pretty high, and I'm not saying you got to have them in your top 5, but they should definitely be in the top 10. I just solely believe that, but here was my biggest problem with the AP top 25. And yet again, I'm going to divert back to this. Everybody's saying, Matt, quit overreacting to the AP poll. And I'm not mad about the poll. I'm mad that there's people out here that actually get to vote on this, and they don't even have half of the knowledge that we have. We'd be better off letting people a part of our college football community vote on the AP poll than the people that actually do it. That's a different conversation for a different day, but check this out. Tennessee at number 12, and Clemson at 9? In what world does this make sense? And I stated this in that video, and I'm going to state it again. I don't care if you want to put Clemson at number 9. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is if you have Clemson at 9, Tennessee has to be ahead of them. Yeah, Tennessee lost a couple players here and there, but with the same quarterback, the same team essentially speaking, Tennessee beat Clemson convincingly. And you mean to tell me you think Clemson is 3 spots better than them still? Come on, man. What are we doing? I'll tell you what this is. This is no other than the AP poll. The first week it always comes down or heading into week 1. It's just to hype up the season and put the big name brands up there first. And you better believe me when I say this. I could sit up here and nitpick why teams 6 through 11, a couple of them shouldn't be right there with Tennessee, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do all that, so let's focus on Tennessee, themselves. Give or take, this Tennessee football team is going to average around 45 to, I'd say, about 48 points per game. Something along those lines. You're not going to hold this team down on offense. To go along with that, the one red flag with Tennessee last year was the defense. It was awful, especially the passing defense. But here's a fun fact a lot of people didn't know. They actually had a top 5 rushing defense in the country last year. I guess you could argue and say a main reason their rushing defense was ranked so high is because everybody was just passing on them because it was so easy. So I understand that, but their rushing defense is pretty dang good. So just keep your eyes on that heading into 2023. But another thing I think you should keep your eyes on is I think the defense has improved mightily. Now, when I say mightily, let me clarify on that because a lot of people may think, oh, well, maybe the passing defense is going to be in the top 25. No. I ain't even saying all that. The passing defense last year was one of the worst in the country. It was well outside the top 100. So when I say they've improved it mightily, I'm just saying they're going to be inside the top probably 75 or 60. My point is, where I'm trying to go with this, I think the defense as an entire unit, it's improved vastly. But the biggest thing about all of this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is that Josh Heupel is heading into year 3. And we all know this, year 3 is normally your breakout season. But here's the thing with Tennessee, they had their breakout season last year. This was a team last year that wasn't even supposed to compete with the big boys, and they did. They well over exceeded expectations. Heading into that season, nobody thought they could play with Bama. Yeah, I get it sucks you didn't make the playoff, but who cares? You still over exceeded. Don't get too greedy, Tennessee fans. Think about it. Nick Saban got to Alabama in 2006. They were terrible. Went something like, what was it? Was it 6-7, 7-6? The next year, they made it to the SEC championship game. Then they lose to Florida, and then the year after that, they won the championship. So you see where I'm going with this. Tennessee the first year, 7-6. The year after that, the one that just happened, 11-2. And I'm not saying they're going to win the championship, but they're on that same trajectory that Nick Saban was when he was at Alabama. Hold your horses, partner. Am I saying that Josh Heupel, a.k.a. Bobby Hill, is the second coming of Nick Saban? Heck to the no. He probably won't even be half of the coach that Nick Saban is. And by the way, to be half of the coach that he is, you got to win at least 3 national titles. But what I am saying is, I think he's much better than what people give him credit for. And here's my biggest thing that I can't wrap my brain around. Everybody all across the country, they think Tennessee's a one-hit wonder, and they're not. I'm telling you, this isn't a fluke. They are here to stay. I'm going to repeat this. Last year was not a fluke. And a lot of people don't even understand this. Those past 15 years from 2007 up until 2022, they didn't even have bad talent. The only thing that held Tennessee back was bad quarterback play and bad head coaching. That's it. And more times than not, when you can fix bad quarterback play and bad head coaching and you get a good quarterback and a good head coach, that fixes all your problems. The biggest problem for 95% of college football programs out here, it's not bad quarterback play. It's not bad coaching. Most programs, I believe, have good head coaches. I mean, you got to be somewhat good to get to that level. The biggest problem is recruiting and talent. For Tennessee, over the past 15 years, yeah, they've sucked, but they've always had talent. They just haven't pieced it together or glued it all together. And that's just what's so funny to me, because you give them a good head coach and boom, 2 years later, they're in the top 5. It's not complicated, guys. It's not. This Tennessee football team's legit. Outside of them being disrespected and ranked out of the top 10, I also want to speak on this from an SEC standpoint. I fall victim of this as well, but I've seen over the past couple weeks and past couple months, everybody's saying and just assuming that Georgia's got this easy path to the national title or at least the SEC championship. And every time someone brings up, oh, well, Georgia's got to go to Neyland Stadium, everybody's just like, yeah, well, Tennessee, they can't really compete with Georgia. And I don't really understand that argument because I think they can. And not only do I think Tennessee could just compete with Georgia, I think they can beat them. And there's only one reason I believe that. They have the talent. Tennessee has the 4- and 5-star recruits to compete with Georgia. Am I saying I expect Tennessee to beat Georgia this year? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying they can compete with them, where most teams, they just can't. Teams like South Carolina and Ole Miss and Vandy and all those, they can't even compete with Georgia. But Tennessee is the one team that has similar athletes to Alabama and Georgia, so they can. So for everybody sitting up here just assuming that Georgia's got an easy path and a automatic run to the SEC championship, like Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. That game up at Neyland Stadium is going to be different, to say the least. And I also believe those Georgia players are going to have a lot of nerves, and I think it's going to be a similar game to Alabama last year. I think that entire Tennessee program and fan base, they don't expect to win, so they're going to go all out. They're going to let their nuts hang. When you are hosting the number 1 team in the country and you're going to be a 10-point underdog, nobody is expecting you to win, which means there's no pressure. You can do whatever you want. Who cares if you have some risky play calls and it doesn't go your way? You're not supposed to win the game. Unfortunately for Tennessee, even after you play the number 1 team in the country in Georgia, you got to go to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and they are pissed off. You are going to get Alabama's best shot in that game, and you better believe it. I think everybody knows that. But yet again, to all my Bama fans, I love you guys to death. If you're just assuming that Alabama's going to be pissed off and Tennessee's going to walk in there and lay down, you've lost your mind. Tennessee got over the hump. They now have more confidence than ever. They're going to be walking into Tuscaloosa on their high horse. The last time he matched up, Tennessee won the game. And yet again, similar to last year, Tennessee's not going to be favored to win. They're going to let their nuts hang. Remember what happened in 2014 and 2015? Alabama went to Ole Miss in 2014, lost, and the next year Ole Miss had to go to Tuscaloosa at night, and everybody just assumed, oh, well, since Ole Miss beat them the year before, they're just going to lay down in Tuscaloosa. No, Ole Miss beat them again in Tuscaloosa back-to-back years. The years of just looking at Tennessee on the schedule and going, yeah, that's an easy win, it's over. Tennessee not only needs more respect, they deserve more respect. And something I just thought about that could be a really intriguing conversation. Let's say Tennessee goes 10-2 and they lose close games to both Alabama and Georgia. Well, if Tennessee loses to Alabama and Alabama and Georgia both get into the playoff, are we too sure that Tennessee's also not a top 4 team? They lost to 2 top 4 teams. You see what I'm saying? Now, we all know if you lose both of them games, you're not going to get in, but I think maybe they should be in consideration. But if you are a Tennessee fan, here's some good news for you. As long as you beat one of these teams, Alabama or Georgia, and you run the table and go 11-1, you're getting in the playoff. There's not a scenario where you split these games, go 11-1, and you don't get in. No way. And I don't want to upset y'all too much, Vol Nation, but if you would have beat South Carolina last year, you would have got in. It doesn't really matter, though, because you wouldn't have won it, but at least you would have made it. Here is your wake-up call. I'm calling it now. This Tennessee team, they're going to surprise people again this year. Do not, and let me repeat this, do not sleep on the Vols. Let me know your thoughts down below, but Robert.